Okay, guys, welcome to another live stream for the Personal Development Through Martial Arts podcast. We're here with Sifu Rick Spain, all the way from Australia. Sifu Spain, how are you?
I'm very good. Thanks for having me, Bogdan.
It's a pleasure to have you once again. And guys, we got together today to mainly to discuss the recent fight. Um, the recent fight, the Wing Chun versus MMA fight that happened. I think it was in Hong Kong, or somewhere in that part of the world. And if you've been doing Wing Chun, you couldn't have missed this fight. And just to comment a bit on what happened and how you can avoid being in a situation like that, or how to better prepare yourself for a fight versus an MMA person. But first of all, Sifu Spain, please, before we begin, please tell everyone a bit about yourself, a bit about your experience and your background.
Thank you. Okay, I've been practicing Wing Chun for over 40 years. My master is Grandmaster William Chong. I started Judo in the late 60s, Kyokushin in the mid 70s, and Wing Chun in the late 70s. And I was a live-in disciple, live-in student, uchideshi they call it in Japanese, in the school in Melbourne in Australia for a number of years, and fought competitively out of that school. And, I won the state, national, and then eventually the world full contact title in Hong Kong in the early 80s. I then went into personal security, but some bodyguard work, stuff like that. And then decided, because knowing full well from an early age this was the thing that I wanted to do for the rest of my life, I opened up a school, and now we have a handful of schools in Australia. We have one in Europe, and we're looking to expand slowly but surely, because I think it needs to be done slowly so that we can maintain a high level of integrity and quality. But it's kind of a snapshot into my life, and I still train 3-4 hours a day, because I this is all I do, and I teach maybe 15 to 20 classes a week. So it's a full-time job that includes training and private lessons and all my classes. So yeah, I'm pretty much doing exactly what I want to do, and exactly what I was doing when I was in my late teens. And now I'm nearly 60, and I'm still training as hard as I can, because even though you pick up injuries along the way, I think it's essential that if you're on the mat and you're teaching a class, you have to be in top shape at all times.
I love that. I love that. And we got a chance to sit down previously and get deeper into your background and the lessons that you learned on the way. And guys, I apologize. We had some technical difficulties. We lost the interview, but maybe we can take another chance and sit down and have that conversation once again. I would very much like that.
That'd be great.
Awesome. So
yeah, that was fun. I really appreciated that.
Excuse me? I didn't get the last part.
Oh no, I just said yes. It was a lot of fun. I really appreciated it.
Awesome. Yeah, it was a lot of fun and full of insight. Let's dive into the topic. What was your reaction when you first saw this fight, this Wing Chun versus MMA fight?
Oh, look, I have a fairly controversial view on the way Wing Chun's going, and
Yes.
at first I was disappointed, because we all get tarred with the same brush. You say Wing Chun, and everyone thinks everyone's the same, but there are vastly different disciplines in Wing Chun now. An overview is, look, it's this guy that challenged the Wing Chun guy was a full-time MMA fighter, and he's prepping for contact sport all the time. It's going to be very difficult. I don't know the background of the two Wing Chun guys, but it was a bit cringeworthy. It was, to me, it seemed like a bit of a show.
Yeah.
Carry on.
Do you feel that there was a huge difference between the two fighters in terms of fighting experience, in terms of actually sparring?
Yeah, look, okay. My first thing I notice when I see that is, okay, you got a guy that's coming in. I mean, let's just go through just what they were wearing for a start. You got a guy in an MMA rashi. He's in sprawl shorts.
Yeah.
There's not a lot you can grab. He's already set up for that. He understands the clinch, so he's already minimizing the amount of foothold you can get on the guy. Other guys in a traditional kung fu outfit, and it just gets used as, places to grab, and you grab from around the collar or the sleeve or it's just, it's folly, because if you don't, and you have to be living in a cave not to know that when it gets in close, the clinch is on. And this is the first indication to me is not just the lack of clinch work, the wrong gear. You're wearing the wrong gear to the wrong party. But it's also, as soon as the guy got tagged, I think both of them are to recollect, but when you see a guy get tagged and he drops, turns away, pulls his head away and and just tries to cover up without any backup plan, you realize that guy hasn't been sparring properly. Maybe he's been sparring his students, and his students are just taking it easy because they don't want to, attack the master. I don't know, I don't know the background of this guy, but
actually the title was like MMA versus Wing Chun student or something like this.
Right. Yeah. Well, I don't know if he's the head of the school or a senior student. I don't know all those things, but when a guy gets tagged and turns his head away and kind of goes into a shell, that tells me that guy is not used to training for full contact bouts, because all of my fighters, they know they're going to get tagged. They're prepared for it. Or even my students that don't compete, they are all prepared for that, because it's something we discuss and it's something we practice. We don't want to. I have a duty of care as a coach to make sure no one gets damaged, but I also have a duty of care to make sure that they're prepared. So yeah, I'd say he wasn't sparring at that level for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. Would you feel that Wing Chun would actually look a bit different when preparing to fight with versus an MMA practitioner or fighter, or so on and so forth?
Sure.
What would one need to adjust?
Okay, this is something we addressed 20 plus years ago. I went, okay, we didn't know the clinch game when I was fighting as well as what we do now. You need to understand clinch work.
Yes.
You need to have a really good takedown game. You need to have, if you don't want to be a BJJ tragic or a wrestling fanatic, you need to have rudimentary ground skills. If you don't have that, you're going to die on the ground against that guy.
Yes.
So you need to realize. Now, my opinion on Wing Chun is a little controversial. I believe that it was a hybrid system when it was first developed. If we believe the story of the 5 grandmasters building a system out of what was available, why have we lost that? Where has that principle gone, that philosophy? Because we should still be adapting and improvising and evolving, because it was designed to work under extreme pressure, and it's not working under extreme pressure. We have ranked fighters in the cage. We've got a world champion in kickboxing. We've got boxing fighters, because we go out there and pressure test ourselves, and we pick up what we need and we absorb it into Wing Chun, because the structure is good. The science behind it's great. It works well on paper, but you need to make it work in the real world, because theoretical Wing Chun to me is just, it's just that. It's just an idea. You need to push it.
Yes, I love it. And for everyone watching right now, guys, let us know in the comment section, how do you test your Wing Chun? Like, what do you consistently do to test theory against practice, right? Against fact. Awesome. Have you seen the one versus boxing, the Wing Chun versus boxing, where the boxer had like one hand behind his back?
Was he just a Western boxer, or was he like a kickboxer?
Western boxer. He just basically used just one hand to fight the Wing Chun practitioner.
One thing Wing Chun needs to address is, chain punching is fine. It's a very economical and a good way to fire off a multiple amount of punches. But where was the left hook? Where was the right hook? If this guy's got his hand behind his back and you can't cut to get on that side, hook him. You know what I mean? You're just getting baited into this one-dimensional fight method, and it's just, that's just a little bit embarrassing, because why don't you just step up and hook the guy when his hand's behind his back? If he doesn't have the head movement, you're going to cold cock the guy. So I look at that and I go, man, you're just fighting stylistically. You're not fighting, in the moment. That you need to just You know, it's just frustrating because they just go, oh, Wing Chun is this and Wing Chun is that. And I go, well, no, that's, you know, he doesn't represent me. He doesn't represent my guys. You know, that's just sad that we get tarred with the same brush, but that doesn't represent me. And I feel for the kid. I tell you what, I have to say, and I don't know if it was all set up. You know, it doesn't seem set up, but what I say is I don't know if it was just a big show and blah, 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 but you have to take your hat off to these guys for getting in there and having a crack at it, for believing in what they do. But I hope they take, I respect that, but I hope they take a lesson away from that going, wow, we really got to get our shit squared away. There's a lot of things we're missing, because Wing Chun is a brilliant discipline, but you have to pressure test it. And if it doesn't evolve, it's just going to become antiquated.
Yes, I agree. I agree 100%. And I actually, I was happy when I saw the video, because I feel that it's actually pushing all of us as a Wing Chun community to test what we're doing a lot more, and not just take information at face value, in my opinion. What do you guys think? What do you guys think who are listening in right now to us? And by the way, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We have 100 people listening to us live right now. You guys are awesome. Let us know which part of the world are you listening to us, right? And let us know if you agree that this is actually a positive thing for Wing Chun. Yeah. How do you feel about it? How do you feel it will impact what we're doing?
Myself? I look, I don't know. You know, when Yip Man passed away, my master took over, or kind of put himself in the position of Grand Master, and everyone was kind of saying, yeah, Sifu William Chung, he's great. And then as soon as he left Hong Kong, it was all sort of back to normal. I don't know, maybe there'll be a bit of shock value initially, but if they're really paying attention, because the one thing about the internet is you can't hide anymore. If you're fake, you know, you get caught out. And I think that's a great thing. I think that's wonderful. But you've got, I think, if it's long term, start doing some BJJ. You start doing some pummeling. You know, if you don't know what pummeling is, it's a wrestling terminology it's literally like chi sao, but you've got 4 or 5 layers of pummeling, whereas in chi sao it's kind of like one layer. But if you go into the wrist, the bicep, the collar, the neck, the arms, and you know, there's all these different pummeling drills, and that would initiate your clinch game. It would take your clinch game to a completely new level. Right. And what I've done is create a kind of a transgression from chi sao through to all these pummeling drills, because I think that's critical. But I think short term shock, disappointment. Long term, learn from it. You know, there's something I've always said to my guys, and you know, I mean, when I say guys, I mean guys and girls. I've got girls who compete. It's every now and again you'll lose. No one wins 100% of the time unless you're Rocky Marciano, whatever. But if you lose and you don't take the lesson with you, then that's really bad. You've got to take the lesson. What could I have done better? Where could I go from here? How do I get back to the drawing board? Because it's mastery orientated more than just outcome orientated. That's really critical to take on board.
I love that. Absolutely. Yum. And you know, my 2 cents on the video and what happened in both cases is, and this was a huge eye-opener for me when I met DKU last year, and I actually interviewed him as well on the pluses and you know, the pros and cons of Wing Chun. And what he was saying was that, you know, the hands in Wing Chun are excellent. You know, they're amazing. What Wing Chun needs to adjust or to get in terms with is the footwork, right? The footwork is very, very stuck to the floor, and I think it's a huge minus in both these fights, both the MMA, both the boxing, right? They can't really control their distance effectively enough. They can't go in quickly enough. They can't go out quickly enough, and yeah, you know, I kind of adjusted my the way I train since that conversation with DKU, in the sense of both having fast footwork and but also keeping that powerful Wing Chun engine.
Yeah, that's actually brilliant, because we have a very structured, I talk about footwork all the time. And we got out of the pigeon-toed stance into a diagonal 45-degree stance. We're up on our toes. We're doing things that, if you look at the UFC, it was pretty rudimentary back in the first days. You look at it, it was pretty rudimentary. Guys were just standing toe-to-toe and banging away. And then came hoists, and all of a sudden people heard this thing called BJJ and ground game, and all of a sudden it was just like wildfire. I mean, it's one of the biggest growing disciplines on the planet. But they didn't have great footwork. If you look at them trying to get in on the first few UFCs, they were kind of everyone was a bit edgy, and then the wrestlers came in, and the wrestlers were shooting, changing levels, very aggressive. They could cut across the ring in a split second, and everyone took notice about that. And then everyone got good at shooting and much better at moving, and then strikers had their day. And and that's, if you look at the UFC, it's this cauldron where it's forcing the evolution. And if you don't have dynamic footwork and fluidity and speed, and you can't cut so that you can create angles, and you just stand toe to toe, which is the worst place in the world to be because all the weapons are right in front of you. If you can't create an angle, man, you're going to get caught out. Even if you've got brilliant skills, hand skills, if your feet let you down, it's going to be a disaster in the long run. So that's a brilliant assumption. So well done.
Awesome. Yeah, and it's a great comparison of how things evolve. And a lot of people love to stick to but this is how it's always been done, so it needs to work. That's not always true. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's folly.
Awesome. Stephen Spain, what can people do to train, or how can people adjust their training to be better prepared in today's world, right? In facing people who have very strong hooks, haymakers, and so on and so forth. How can they better prepare for situations like this?
Okay. We do a seminar called Urban Survival, which is all about what happens out on the street. And, if we talk about the actual combat point, I have a viewpoint on that. But before we get into that, what we do is I say, look, if I show you a bunch of techniques, you do this against a haymaker, you do this against a guy with a knife, you do this against a guy with a bottle or whatever. So well, you're at the DEFCON 4, you're right at the worst part of it. I precurse all of that with situation awareness, reading the room, understanding where you are in time and space, and having spatial awareness, because 90% of all of these situations could probably be avoided. So I teach a lot of that about being aware, not being a soft target. And when I mean a soft target, I mean your face is in your phone, you're listening to an iPod, you're literally just totally disconnected from the outside world, but you're in the outside world, and you're what I would consider to be a soft target. And guys that want to do you harm and take what, for whatever reason they want to take what you've got, they have a plan. They're looking for the soft targets all the time. So if you really want to prepare for these guys, you need to actually be much more aware. If it kicks off and you can't discourage them, and because there's a ritual that occurs when people make eye contact and somebody wants to kick off, you get caught into this ritual. If you at the very end, you cannot stop the guy from getting arced up, and you need to understand the assault has already started. And in Australia, you have the right to do what's called a preemptive strike, which is distract him and then preemptively strike him before he hits you.
Oh, really?
Unfortunately, yeah, it's called a preemptive strike. It's legal. It's just that you have to the guy has to threaten you. The guy has to say, I'm going to smash your face in, and then you can then preemptively strike him. And there's a whole little tweaks and tricks that you can use to kind of get that off the ground. Unfortunately, in the police force, they have to wait until they get assaulted before they can actually fight back.
Yeah,
we need to hear the magic words. But and then you're being assaulted, so you can defend yourself. But if we go back to physically, you need to be fit, you need to be strong, you need to have the reflexes, and you just need to spar and pressure test all the time. If you're not sparring at whatever degree of pressure, whether it's we do a lot of sparring without strikes just to improve our clinch. Then we spar with strikes and still clinch.
Yes.
Then we spar with 16-ounce gloves on, MMA gloves. Sometimes we'll just restrict the amount of tools we can use to just isolate and strengthen them. And sometimes you're just going to get a guy coming in throwing barrage of strikes, so you have to work on defense and covering up and so on and so forth. You got to do it all. There's no one perfect technique. Anyone who says, I'm just going to do this and that's going to work every time is delusional. It's
Awesome.
delusional.
Awesome. So, guys, for everyone who's watching right now, post a question. If you have any question that you'd like us to answer regarding sparring, regarding, your training or your evolution as a martial artist, just post it in the comment section, and we'll do our best to answer it. We still have about 5 minutes of this interview, so we'll be taking one question. Great. So basically, just test things out and learn from it, right?
Absolutely. Like I've said every time, you get a loss in the ring, you learn the lesson, you go back to the drawing board. You have a sparring session on the mat, and you get knocked on your bum. You get up and you figure out, what did he do right? What did I do wrong? You analyze it. You implement a plan to do something better next time. And you just have to keep, turning up, because if, 99% of success is just turning up. If you stick at it and the right mat environment is there, our mat environment is supportive and it's healthy and we have fun, but we realize that on the other side of that, we need to constantly keep a vigilant eye on what's happening and keep pressure testing. And like last night, we had a massive sparring session on the mat at the main Chun here in Sydney, and there was 30 people sparring, and in all various levels, and I get them to rotate through all the different levels, so a young guy can experience what an advanced guy's like, with great kicks and great punches and some great takedowns, good groundwork, but not being smashed. They're not being bullied. They're just being coached, and pressure is put back on them. That's a really critical thing. You need to keep learning, keep evolving.
I love that. Awesome. Sifu Spain, if you could ask everyone listening in one question and have them send an answer, what would that be? What would you like to ask them?
If I wanted to ask them
one question, yes.
Okay, one question. It's a good. How real is the mat that you're standing on? How real is it?
How real is the mat?
Is the mat that you stand on, that you go to every night, that you go to every week? How real is it? And ask that question. And don't be afraid to ask that question, because you could spend years wasting time on a mat and walk away with skills that are irrelevant. You need to ask yourself, or ask the question, or I'm asking you, how real is your mat? How real is the culture? How real is the pressure? What are you really getting out of it?
Yeah, awesome. Great question, guys. So let us know in the comment section. It is a bit like, it needs a bit of thought, because I feel like everybody who's training martial arts, you wouldn't normally go to your school if you didn't think that you're getting some kind of value, or if it's not real, right? But sometimes you feel like you feel that it's not the thing, right? But you're just afraid to change. That was my case, at least, right? In my previous school, we would not spar at all, right? And I always felt weird about it, but I said, you know what? This is the way the training is, so maybe I just need to train harder, right? But I
well said. I think, and my kind of perspective on that is, people don't know what they don't know. They come into a school, they're a little bit nervous, they're in a bit of intrepidation. They join the school, they want to fit in, they're excited. There's people with some skills, and people have been telling them this and telling them that, and they don't know. So, they don't know if it's real, or if there's, real skills there. Is it life skills? Is it going to help me get home tonight? Is it going to help me, develop as a human being? But some people just don't know what they don't know. And you need to ask the tough questions.
Yes, I love that. So guys, think about it and post it in the comment section. Let us know how real the mat that you're going to every night is. Sifu Spain, thank you so much for taking the time to join us on in this interview.
Pleasure.
Looking forward to having you once again.
Thank you so much, Bogdan. It's been a great pleasure. Thanks. I think you're doing a great thing because you're asking all the right questions and getting people to take notice. That's what we need to be doing. Thank you for inviting me.
I appreciate that as well very much. And just as much as I appreciate everybody who took the time to write a comment, let me just give a quick shout out before we finish to Saul, to Clay, to Odopil. I'm sorry guys for butchering your names. I'm doing my best. To Clay, to Hugo, to Ronjo, Hugo again, Kevin, Edgar, Jim, and Mashu. I have no way I can pronounce this name. I'm sorry. And Apex Dino. Guys, thank you so much for saying hello. And for everyone who's watching and tuned in, guys, have an amazing day. Let us know what your thoughts are on this whole fight controversy. You know, how do you feel about your training? Sean Wood is saying thumbs up from France. Great to have you, Sean. Thank you so much. Okay, I'll see everyone next time. Until then, share this with your Kung Fu brothers if they need to see this, alright? And keep training hard. Sifu Spain, thank you so much once again.
Thank you, and thank you to everyone that listened in. Thank you so much.